everybody, and how are we all doing today? It is, of course, another Sunday night. It is the 14th of January 2023. This is the second live stream that we've done of 2024. Don't ask me how many we've done in total. There's far too many that I can think of. But every Sunday at 6 we go live, as you know. Now, what we're going to be talking about today is your garden/allotment list of tasks that you want to do throughout January and throughout February. But we'll get into that in just a moment. Don't forget to hit that like button, get the algorithm working so more people can join in the conversation. But let's see who we have got in the chat tonight. Adrian is out there saying hello to everyone. Good evening to you. We have got Ballycillian Allotment Man out there saying good evening, everyone. Good evening to you. Turbo Streamers out there saying good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Stuart Jackson is there saying evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope everyone is doing well this week. Indeed, I hope everyone is doing well. Graham Bolton is out there. Hello to you. Hope you are well. He also says hello to everybody. We have got Kate Spratt out there. Good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. Nicola is saying Heidi hi, Heidi ho. So chilly but lovely to see the sun and later darkness. I can't believe how late the sun came up this morning, 7:30. It was still dark out here anyway. Scott is out there saying good evening. Oh, good evening to you, Scott. Mr. Digwell is out there saying yowza. How's it going? How's it going indeed? Nicola is saying tucked up under the duvet with the electric blanket on. Sunny is chilly. I've got the heater on. Turned the heater on early. Everything's working fine. Hargrave Gas, evening everyone. Hope you've all had a great week. Good evening to you. Gary is out there saying good evening everyone. Good evening to you. Anna Jones is saying evening gardeners. Good evening to you. Andrew Norris, evening all. I'll be popping in and out while cooking. What are you cooking tonight? Let us know. Stu Jackson is saying hope everyone is feeling better than me. Bloody heavy cold again, second in 6 weeks, so no gardening for me this weekend. If it's any consolation, Stuart, I've got a headache, but I hope you get over the cold quite soon. Rebecca Hawkins is out there saying evening all. Good evening to you. Philly SPB is saying hello everyone. Good evening to you. Idaho Garden Girl is there saying hello to everybody. Hello to you. Richard Golden, hello all. Good evening to you. Andrew Norris says as soon as I can get back to the village, I'll be pruning my apple trees. One of the jobs that I've got on the list. Digwell is saying time lag. There. No, we won't start singing. Idaho saying hello to everyone. Chili is out there saying hi everyone. Hope you are all well. We've got my dad is there. Anna Jones is there saying hello. Turbo Stream says hello to people as well. Chili Kate saying also very pixelated and laggy here. We're doing our best. This signal is a little low, but it looks stable. So it was. We'll see what happens. Graham says it was very late sunrise this morning, then, mate. It was very late. I thought I woke up at 7:30. Well, I was awake before then, but 7:30, the dog sort of wants to get up, and I'm thinking to myself, it's still dark. Rather annoying, actually. Digwell says, well, Richard was a kickboxer, so looking like a Chinese kung fu movie is very fitting. The software I use doesn't allow me to adjust the timing of that. I'm trying to figure that out, a way around that for the time. It's why sometimes my vocals and the visual is out of sync due to the complicated stuff. It happens a lot when you deal with this sort of thing. Money Boots is out there as well. I think that is everybody, but please do keep talking in the chat and let us know if you are joining us, where you're from, etc., etc. So what are your tasks for the month? Now, I've broken this down because we are sort of the middle of January. I think it was Rebecca who suggested this last week. I've broken it down to January and February. So I've made a list of the tasks that I want to complete throughout January. I do sometimes find that having a monthly list of tasks that we want to complete that month does mean you focus on things that really need priority. Big fan of to-do lists, as I've said time and time again. So I've broken it down to tasks that I want to complete in January. Down on the allotment, I need to move my small shed. That's a task that I really need to get done within the next couple of weeks, and I need it done throughout January. Now, the reason that I want this shed moved, I'm not happy with its position. I feel it can be in a better location. But the other thing, or the other reason that I want to move the shed, or I need to move the shed in January, is that I also need to move some trees. And I always think when it comes to moving trees, I know we're often afraid to move trees, but it's much better to do that while the tree is dormant. This is an apple tree and a cherry tree that I want to move. It's going to be much easier for the tree, much more chance of establishing while the tree is dormant. So for me, January is a good time to dig out those trees and get them moved into their new location. And then as we get into the warmer months, it will sort of establish itself as it goes along. As the soil warms up, should be plenty of moisture in the soil as well. So in theory, they should establish themselves. Added to that, I've got a large collection of wood, both at home and on the allotment, and I've done quite a bit of cutting up this weekend. These are a bit of offcuts of wood or things like my old ivy or down the allotment old pallet wood. Need to cut that up and either burn it here at home in our fireplaces or get it into storage ready for next winter. Most of it, I think, will be burned because we're going through it at quite a rate of knots at the moment, burning this wood. And the main reason that I need to get these cut and burned is that they are just ugly. They're taking up space on the allotment, in the garden, and it just looks messy. I just feel that once I've got these wood pieces out the way, I will be very, very happy. We've got a few more seeds to sow, of course, asparagus, rhubarb, more chilies, more aubergines, more sweet peppers, celery and celeriac, to name just a few. Then we have got a big tidy up in both at home and on the allotment, all which, it just takes time. Just need those dry days, which we're getting a bit more at the moment, and I'm quite glad for it. Protect any plants from frost, of course, and repair any leaks on my water butts. And finally, I want to make sure that all my heated instruments, so my heated propagators, I don't have a greenhouse heater, but if I did, I would be making sure that that is working and serviced as well. Very important at this time of year. Nigel has just said the picture is frozen. I think during the winter we just seem to have problems with signal. We're hoping it'll bounce back. It's saying it's stable, but a bit weak. I might try and move it in a moment. Let's see what has been going on in the chat. So Digwell is saying, my biggest task for January is sourcing a bulk supply of peat compost. Found one so far, just haggling at a price. Now, that's kind of quite fitting, because I'm hoping next week that we're going to be talking about what different top composts you buy in. So that's kind of useful. But I know a lot of people are still looking for peat-based composts. I've moved away completely, but I know a lot of debate, a lot of the unpeat compost is so different right throughout the ranges. To find a decent source can be a little bit tricky. Gary says, my number one priority is to empty the compost bin and spread the compost on the bed. I need to do it soon, as I need to give the weed seeds time to germinate so I can hone them out before I sowed veg. And I think he continues, last year I didn't, and they germinated together. It was a nightmare weeding around the seedlings. Yeah, that's actually a very good idea. If you do create your own compost, there is a good chance that there will be bits of weed seeds and stuff inside it. What I know some people to do is actually fill up a wheelbarrow with the compost and put it in somewhere a bit warmer, like in a greenhouse, let it germinate, clear off all the weeds, and then throw that compost down on the beds. Just an idea for you, Gary, if that helps. But yeah, not a bad idea. Let the weeds grow, or let the weeds germinate, then hoe them all off. Not a bad idea at all, actually. Toby Stream says, I actually managed a few jobs this week. Fantastic. Emptied out the leaf mold bin and spread it about and started the next batch. Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. That sounds like you've had a good week down on the allotment. I know you've been desperate to get down there lately. Idaho Garngale says, my number one priority is to get moved, but we've just had something like 12 inches of snow. Is there any sign when you're going to be moving at the moment, Idaho? I know I'm looking forward to seeing how you get on with your new bit of land. Turbo Stream says, I pruned the gooseberries and cut back the autumn raspberries to the ground. Good plan. Digwell says, not doing a compost trial this year, so disappointing last year. I think I said about this last year. I have found the compost to be so widely different quality. I think the peat-free compost, you could buy it and it's a consistent quality. The one that I get does seem to be pretty consistent, but I have seen examples of Horizon, for example. I brought a bag and it's been perfectly fine, and some of you have brought it and it's got bits of stone, bits of credit cards in there. It's so widely different that I think that is going to be the downfall of peat-free compost. Chili Kate says, at home, lots of planting and tending to seedlings. On the allotment, create a bed for the taberry we bought today on our uncultivated end and pot in another water butt. Good one. Good lot of jobs there. Idaho says, I've tried non-peat compost and it is just lacking. It's a difficult one because peat is being banned. You know, we've got to... Here in the UK, anyway, peat is being banned. We've got to start thinking about what we can use instead. So I know it's not great, but we've got to move with it. Anna Jones says, apple tree pruning, fence mending, and digging up and replacing an old gooseberry are my tasks. Crikey, you sound very busy there. So January is a bit of a funny month, isn't it? It's kind of slow, but we are getting there. Bethan says, I had a bulk of fresh horse manure delivered today. I have emptied my 12-month decomposed horse manure onto my asparagus bed today, but want to build a couple more compost bays and get more manure. Compost bays, it's good. I think I've always said January or winter time certainly is a good time for doing all the infrastructure jobs, be it building new beds, new compost bins, things like that, sorting out the paths, the infrastructure jobs when there's not much more else to do on the plot. For one, I have yesterday just finished building my last bed here at home for the month. We are building more next month. We're only doing a couple each month at the moment because our budget only allows a certain amount to spend each month on these things. But yeah, that's our plan. We've got the January ones built. February we're going to be building more beds as well. Gary said, thanks, that's a good idea. I'm going to excuse me, let's see if I get another one. I think that is it. Scott says, my jobs are making 2 more beds, getting the second IBC tank set up, and a general good tidy up. And once I get planning permission back for a shed to create a base for it. How are you going to make your shed base, Scott? Question I'm throwing out there. Graham says, that sounds like heaven to me, to Idaho. And Stuart says, the jobs I need to get done is sow more peas, chilies and peppers at home. School's still waiting for the children to make up their mind what they want to sow. I find it interesting, Stuart, you're sowing peas. Is anybody else out there sowing peas throughout January? it's I'm only asking because it's something I personally don't do. But Bethan, that sounds awesome. Jim M has joined. Good evening to you. Evening, Richard. Sunny day in Bedfordshire. So I fed and mulched 3 beds and cleaned out the hens. Very satisfied. Is weather-wise, this weekend has been lovely. I haven't spent as much time in the garden as I would like because I had something else on, but yeah, it has been lovely this weekend to get out, especially on the allotment today. And such a lovely time down on there doing quite a few tasks. Digwell says even some big players like MVS, OHS are saying that the peat loading of peat free, the pest loading of peat free is very high. Flea beetles, for example. I totally agree. I've noticed in the compost that I do use, where I've got it indoors, we're getting a lot of flies. Which is becoming a bit of a problem. So there is something about this waste compost that is causing a few issues. Turbo Extreme says, I've decided to buy John Innes from now on. Still have compost flies from the Aldi rubbish I bought. Yeah, I'm getting compost flies on the stuff I brought from the range. John Innes. I always find that John Innes statement a bit of a weird one because, as my understanding, I don't know if there is a company called John Innes, but my understanding was John Innes created the grade of compost. So grade 1 was like seed compost, potting on compost, etc., etc. So when I see we've added John Innes, it's a bit of a sales blurb, as I understand it. Graham says the peat compost is getting banned down to the EU. Yeah, it is getting banned. It is getting banned. Toby Stream says next job is to mulch the raspberries, going to lay newspaper, then leaf mold on top this year to try and stop the raspberry fly at bay. Good idea, actually. That's a very good idea, I've got to say. Nigel says I've got 4 times 15 square meter beds to replace all of the edges with pavers. Oh, that's going to take you quite a while, isn't it? And pavers aren't light things anymore. I wouldn't like to be in your shoes there, Nigel, but good luck. Good luck. I'm exhausted just thinking about that. Nicola says, my jobs are insane. Terrace rear meadow. Now, of course, Nicola has, I think it's just over 3 acres of land that she's trying to get ready for growing. So, yeah, I'm sure your jobs are pretty high, pretty insane. I would say, in my opinion, and tell me to shut up if you want, but I would say break it down into smaller areas and see how you get on just by doing a little bit at a time. On that note, Nicola, I sent you a message yesterday. I don't know if you saw it with regards to getting your address for someone to send you rhubarb. Digwell says, be careful. John Innes is just a fertilizer formula. So if a compost says with John Innes, it doesn't mean it is a John Innes compost with lime, like in the old days. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's always a bit tricky when they say we've added John Innes. I know exactly what you mean. Graham Bolton, my peas are in. So you are doing peas as well. Interesting. Turbo Stream, Digger, don't say that. Why can they not leave things alone for Pete's sake? Excellent stuff there. Allotment tool, I'm still raking up leaves from last year. I know. I don't think we really, well, we had quite a late autumn, so the leaves are all around us at the moment. Scott says, my father-in-law has loads of bricks and thinks we can use them. But to be honest, I haven't done it before, so I'm open to suggestions. I will be relying on his help. I'm not very good when it comes to DIY and building. No, bricks, I mean, we were not allowed to do bricks on our allotment, but what I've learned over the years is that if my shed has a very good, strong base, it's less likely to blow over in the wind. So always make sure it has a good strong base and it's drilled down. Gary says, I've got the supporter club peas in root trainers in the greenhouse late again. Need planting out or pot them under a cloche, but no expectations as I don't usually sow peas until much later. Yeah, I mean, normally I do peas in the autumn, but I have seen a few more people actually sowing peas in various locations and greenhouses and things. So I'm intrigued to see how well it works. Stuart says, my first sign of peas were given to the little mouse in my greenhouse, so I'll be starting them inside this time. When you live where I do, I very often feed the wildlife. There's a photo about that coming up a little bit later on. Brian's Garden and Polytunnel has joined. Hello all, good evening to you. Nicola says, planting the spring bulbs, still waiting to go in. Yes, I've got to do that as well. Finish off the IBC tank area, gutting back of that now, and compost bay area. Redo polytunnel plastic and new sides, and now on stilts. Make about 60 new raised beds. You get your work cut out for you. You have got your work cut out for you, but with that much land, it does take time. What else have we got? Nigel was saying to Muddy to dig well, a local small nursery sell John Innes base, still popular earlier. Yeah, it's still a popular seller, sorry. It is a bit of a sales blurb when it says we've added John Innes sometimes, I think. What have we got? Jim M says, I have to admit, I spent the last couple of years throwing as much peat as possible into my beds. Prepper mentality. Yes, I think we all suffer from that prepper mentality sometimes, don't we? I don't know if anybody is out there who would class themselves as a prepper, but I used to be really into it many years ago. What else have we got? Turbo Stream says, I got my John Innes from a nursery, hoping they still sell it. Now need another bag. If it's dedicated John Innes, then it is probably okay. But yeah, Digwell says, same here, Nigel, but it's a misused term now. Like organic, it means nothing without the qualification. Yeah, and some people need to know more about what is it about John Innes. I agree. Jim says, hopefully now I can maintain the soil with manure. I won't bother with commercial compost anymore. Yes, exactly right. This is something I think I'm hoping. I normally let you guys decide the subject, but thinking next week, I want to find out what compost you buy in a bit more if you're okay with that, for this very reason, particularly with things like seed compost. This has been something that's been on my mind for quite a while. Right, shall we go to a video? Now, we've been talking about tasks for January, so it's probably only right that I start off with the mission that you sent me for this week, which was to dig out the gooseberry bush. Let me show you how we get on. Hi guys, you sent me the mission to remove the gooseberry bush after a lot of discussions, so it is time for it to go. Got some decent gloves because gooseberries are of course quite thorny, and I have got a very good pair of loppers. So let's go cut it down. So we cleared all the branches away, and what I've discovered, not only do we have this gooseberry bush here, we've got another one right there. Didn't actually realise there was 2 gooseberry bushes in this area. It must have self-layered or something. I'm just going to try digging out these roots a bit, just to try and make sure we can get rid of them completely. Right guys, that has got 2 gooseberry bushes out of this area. I'm going to mulch this area and tidy it up a bit, but for this mission accomplished. Yep, that is it. The gooseberry bush. We spoke about this last week, didn't we? After pruning the black currant bushes. Just like to say, I think my Sundance has worked. But yeah, I decided after a lot of thought, thinking about it, and discussions in my head, and talking with you guys, we just needed to get rid of it and dug it out. I'm a lot happier now, I've got to say. I just feel that that area where it was always difficult to keep tidy because the people who were on that plot before me just stuck a load of fruit plants in that area without giving them the correct spacing and what have you. So it is gone. It has gone. I'm happy about that. The decision is made. It looks a lot better. Obviously, you didn't see it great in that video, but there will be a video coming out later on where you will see what it looks like afterwards. And yeah, pleased with that. Completely pleased with that. And that tallies up with what we were talking about for tasks for January. I certainly think that getting rid of all these old plants and, as I said, digging out trees is a good thing to do throughout January if we need to. So do we want to move on to February in just a moment? Let's see if anything is being said in the comments first. So well, a couple of comments. Turbo Stream says my main soil improver is the leaf mold. We are lucky to have plenty full supply of leaves. Yes, you do get a lot of leaves sent to your allotment site, I believe, and I have to agree, you are very, very lucky to be able to get that. I, for one, we get wood chip delivered to our site quite a bit now. We've got to pay a £5 for a year's membership for it now. They've sort of came up with that rule. Same as horse manure. Well, we haven't had horse manure delivered for quite a while, to be fair, but the wood chip is being delivered and I'm trying to make the most of it for, well, while I can, because it's such a good thing to use. I use it as a mulcher into the compost heaps and it just helps improve my soil. Now, Turbo Stream goes on to say, oh no, that poor gooseberry, unceremoniously removed without warning. Rest in peace. It was an ugly looking tree. I said last week it was ugly. It needed a lot of TLC. It needed to have a lot of things ripped out and see what happens. Amanda has joined in the Facebook group. Evening all. Sorry I'm late. Good evening to you. And Scott says, task for next week, a memorial for the gooseberry bush. For the mission, you want me to have a memorial for the gooseberry bush. I do need a mission for next week. I can certainly do something for like that for Jake, but I'd love to hear a bit of a mission, a challenge that you can set me for next week. I know sometimes I'm putting you on the spot a bit with these, but I think it adds a bit of fun to it. Graham says, I use Miracle Grow peat free and always have done, Richard. To be honest, that's probably why I don't realise the difference of peat free or peat and peat free, sorry. But did he pop me onto a peat seed sowing compost? Yeah, I have to admit, I've used, I can't remember the manufacturer of my seed sowing compost. I've used them for years. But I ran out. I brought a couple of years ago, I bought a load of them and I kept the bags here. But I've ran out now. But for seed sowing, I'm actually now moving more onto this stuff, Coca and Queer. Bring that into you, which is pretty good stuff. I've got to say, it's Queer based, so it doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it. But I'm moving more into that for seed sowing. Gary says, February job. I've taken on my friend's allotment now too. He's got beds with turf sides, slug heaven. I'm going to replace them with wooden raised beds. So more building of new beds in February. That's certainly something I've got on my list as well. Nigel was saying, yes, the couch grass was complaining about space being invaded. About what? What was that? Oh, that poor gooseberry, is that? Yeah. Stuart Jackson says, talking about compost, I'm hoping to mix peat-free with homemade for potting on our pots, etc., both at home and at school. Excuse me. This will help me teach why we use peat-free. Hopefully it will work okay. Excuse me, sorry, I've had dinner and it's repeating on me. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's good. Oh, hiccups now. Sorry. I think it's good to mix peat-free with homemade compost as well for better nutrients. I mean, I think people often think that the compost we make at home is suitable for a potting mix, and on its own, I don't believe it is. It's a very different type of compost, more for extra nutrients, I would say. Digwell says, was it Levington Advanced F2 Speed Seed and Modular Compost? I can't remember. I think it was, although part of me wants to say Westlands at the same time. It was a yellow and blue packs. I can't remember what it was now off the top of my head. Talking about the seed compost I used to use. Oh no, sorry, talking to somebody else. Forget what I said. Nicholas says, I still have some fruit to pot in. I've got larger pots. They are dwarf root stocks. Even with dwarf root stocks, when it comes to potting them in a pot, I always believe the bigger the pot they are in, the better they will survive. More chance of them getting plenty of more moisture in the ground, more room to spread their roots to find more moisture, or just add a mulch or something at the same time. Bigger the pot, the better is my sort of stance. Brian says, I've only recently discovered the possibilities for cocoa queer. I'm obviously a dinosaur. There's a lot of debate about it, I'll be honest with you. A lot of debate whether it's any good. For me, I like it because of how easy it is to grow. But as for seed sowing, because there's very, very few nutrients in it, I think it's perfect. If we were using it for multi-purpose compost, for example, we do have to add a few nutrients into it to make it work. Turbo Stream says, I need to dig out some brambles, which will continue throughout the winter. February's the last month of winter, isn't it? I just thought of that. Andrew says, does anyone use tea from nettles for plant feed or comfrey for fruit plants? Free feed. Yes, certainly always make comfrey feed. I've made nettle feed in the past as well, but does anybody else make nettle or comfrey feed? Chili Cake says, February, hopefully another bed or two in the uncultivated end. There's a plum tree waiting to go in, and depending on weather, start on the flower bed. The good turf taken out will become paths. Fantastic. The John Innes fertilizers NPK. Graham Bolton says, glad you sent that digging, mate. I'm going to order after live. Best seed compost I've ever used. Nigel says, apart from bulking out, I don't rate it. Yeah, I think it's fine as a seed compost in multi-purpose. I mean, I grew the best potatoes in the potato experiment were grown in coir compost, but there wasn't many of them. They were just the best looking potatoes. It's got something there, I would say. Bethan says she uses comfrey and nettle feed and thinks it's awesome. Graham says I use nettle and comfrey together, best of both worlds. Nicholas says I have 15 small metal beds to put together, bought last year at the beginning of summer. Wow, you've got a lot of work to do there, Nicola. I have to try and come down one day and give you a hand. Nettles high in nitrogen, comfrey high in potash. That's what I used to do, funny enough. I used to use nitrogen for my young plants, my seed, used nitrogen. Used to use nettle feed for my young seedlings and my young plants to try and bulk them up. And then I would use comfrey once they start to flower in order for like tomato feed. That's what I used to do anyway. I make comfrey feed every year. I don't make so much nettle feed anymore. Digwell says, if you buy some, get a good make. Many cheap ones have too much salt with it being washed in salt water, especially coir for pet bedding. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on, isn't there, with it? Turbo Stream says, I go by the equinox, so March the 20th marks spring for me. March is often very cold and wet month here. Yeah. I always go beginning of March for spring, but I take what you're saying very true. It can still be a very cold, wet month. Stuart says we are making nettle tea this year along with banana skin tea to save money at school. I tried making banana skin tea, just didn't quite work as well as I had hoped. Andrew says exactly. Andy Jones says I sometimes make nettle tea at the top of the garden low, as it really does smell awful, doesn't it? Doesn't it just? Idaho says nettles don't grow in my area, but I'm not planting any. No, you don't want it really if you can help it. Brian says I always bypass the stuff for pet bedding, Steve. Yeah. Nigel says I find coir dries out too quickly for seeds. Much prefer worm compost with added drainage for seed sowing. It does dry out quite quickly. Granted, it does dry out quite quickly. I mean, I'm checking mine on a daily basis, so it doesn't cause me too many problems. But yeah, you're all right. Turbo Stream says this year I need to get in the habit of feeding my plants with liquid feed. No excuses here. There is a comfrey patch on my plot. Yeah, make it. And Jim M says, yes, spot on. Nettle feed for growing and comfrey for fruit and flowers works every time. We do like to save money here, don't we, as allotmenteers and growers. Now, I did say I was going to go through my list of February tasks that I want to complete in the garden. I sat down here trying to think of what I wanted to do throughout February. Now, I put on there building new beds. As I said earlier on, each month I'm allowed a little bit of budget to buy the wood for building new beds, and that's what I'm doing. So we're going to be building a couple more beds in February. Of course, we've got seeds that we're going to be sowing throughout February as well. Starts to get a little bit busier in February, but when March comes, it gets incredibly busy for seed sowing. So before March, I want to make sure the greenhouse is all clean and set up and organized before March really comes in and we get really busy. I want to spread out the compost mulch on all my beds as required. Should be fairly easy thing to do. Make sure all my beds down on the allotment particularly are fed, be it the bit of chicken manure for the brassica beds, lime for the brassica beds, the potato beds have a bit of feed in it as well. Basically just getting them ready. March is when we start planting out our potatoes and things, so making sure that that is all ready. I'm going to be pruning my raspberries in February. I was going to do it this weekend, but I decided to hold off until February. Building new compost bins. I've made a note of something I want to do in February as well. Somebody mentioned they're building compost bins, but I want to build some new compost bins down on the allotment and at home in some form or another. And then I need to pump some water, some rainwater from our water butts into other water butts, just to make sure we can keep getting plenty of rainwater in store ready for the summer. It's going to be well, I don't know how the weather is going to be in summer, but we've had a very wet winter. Wet autumn, wet winter. Last year wasn't great either, so we could end up with a pretty interesting summer. So I want to make sure we've got plenty of water just in case. Where were we? So Nicola is saying fruit trees going in 30-litre pots, larger trees going in metal 90-litre dustbins, or the plastic storage drums cut in half or just the tops off. Yeah, I mean, they are big enough for the fruit trees. Obviously, Nicola has a lot of arsenic in her soil, so she can't grow into the soil. So everything has to go into raised beds. 90-litre dustbins, a great idea. Great idea, I have to say, especially for fruit trees. Graham's asking Nicola, where is she based? I don't mind helping out. Nicola says she's in Cornwall, hence the name Cornish Heaven. Yeah, bit of work set out there. Bit of distance, Nicola, sorry. Yeah, no problem. So let us know what you are planning to do in your allotment or your garden throughout February as well. I'm sure there's plenty of things that we can do in February again. One thing that I think I'm going to be really focusing on is just getting the beds ready for March, making sure that the compost is spread out and mulched and everything like that. All the water is, all the beds are weeded where necessary. Basically, just want to hit March so that we are good to go. We're going to hit the, well, we're hitting the year, everything running at the moment is the theme. Graham says, for pumping water, use the Bosch pump, 45-minute runtime, and can move 2 LBC tanks in that time. Yeah, I use a hose lock water pump that I have, which it's 240 volts, so it's not 230 volts, sorry. So it is mains powered. I would like to get the Ryobi battery powered one at some point, mainly because I've got the Ryobi power tools, but I have seen the Bosch ones with a lot of people rate them quite well as well. The only reason I won't buy the Bosch is because all my batteries are Ryobi, as I've previously said. But the Bosch ones do seem quite popular and what have you. Nigel says, Richard, have you got speed test app on your phone to check Wi-Fi signal? Still getting the picture breakup. I have got. I'm not using my phone. It's through my other Wi-Fi dongle. I can't do it while doing a live show because it will just slow things down once again. It happens. I think it happened last January. Seems to happen every January and winter time. We just struggle with signal. I'm still really after trying to get some sort of 5G in the area, or what's the other thing I want? Full fiber broadband, but they're both a long way off. It's best I can do for the time being. We're just hoping in whether it's going to pick up. It's a bit better this week, than it was last week. I'll say that. Amanda says, I'm going to be getting my beds ready and fed for spring. I'll do a weekly pop out of new weeds to stay on top of it, says Amanda. Hopefully stay on top of it, that is. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be much easier if we still had light in the evenings when we came home from work, because I would be down the allotment every night, 20 minutes, half hour, just doing weeding and watering. And it is amazing just how easy it is to stay on top of the weeds when we do that. But yeah, weekly, I try and do it a bit more than once a week personally, but that's because my couch grass is so bad. Nicholas says, Gary will be hopefully lots to do. Oh yeah, sorry, I've seen that. Graham says, the Bosch is a good buy, mate, but I know what you mean. You have Ryobi, I have everything Bosch. Yeah, this is something I should say, actually, as you saw in the video with my charger. All my tools are now Ryobi. I made that decision because Ryobi have a huge range of battery-powered tools, and I just like the fact for years I've got my workshop is full up with battery powered tools, be it drills, screwdrivers, etc., and it's annoying having to have so many different batteries and different chargers that I've just moving over to the Ryobi system, because it just one battery or one charger in theory. Scott says, another job for me this month is decided what I will be growing in each bed and when needed to prepare them for what I'm growing in them, lime, feed, etc. Yeah, getting the plan in ahead, actually, that's a good winter job. I try and do that throughout December or November, December, plan out what I'm going to be growing in what beds. And as you say, it does help if you have a plan, because you can do all the correct feeding routines. Brassica beds need a bit of lime in the soil, so it's good to do that in advance. Yeah. Nicholas says, got lots, not looking forward to it, but I'll just have to be one better at a time. Yeah, small areas and do it little and often, to coin a phrase. Gary says, I'm going to divert my morning dog walks via the allotments to do the same. Constant daily 15 minutes. Yeah, totally agree. It does make a huge difference. I don't know if anybody else out there has found it, but just 15, 20, half hour a day on the allotment or in the garden makes all the difference. I tend to do in the morning in the garden here at home, and then in the evening at the allotment. And it's just little things. Seed sowing at the moment is the thing I tend to do a bit more in the morning. I've just kind of related, actually. Just before Christmas, I sowed some chili seeds They did get eaten quite a bit by slugs and snails, believe it or not. But I've started using Grazer's G2, and that really has worked with the slugs and snails. But what I've now had to do with the chilies is that the roots were now starting to come out the bottom of the pot plants. So I had to pot them up into bigger pots ready for get them to grow on. And I only done that this week, so it's a bit early to tell if it's going to make any difference. But that's one of those things that I tend to do in the morning is just try to pot on my plants, prick out my seedlings where applicable, and even when later on in the year, plant them out in the morning. That way, they should, in theory, get a good drink when I plant them out, and then pop out there in the evening and give them another good drink. Stuart Jackson says, I will be sowing lots of seeds in preparation for my plant sale this month. Already got veg orders, so I need to get going. This month, in January or February, Stuart? Plant sales already. I mean, we have got in 3 weeks' time, 3 weeks today, Seedy Sunday in Brighton, but that's a seed swap. Only why I mentioned Seedy Sunday, there is the post going around where they've announced the speakers, including myself. If you are going, go check that post out. I'll mention it again because I should mention it. There is something else going on tomorrow night that I want to mention, but I'm on an embargo until tomorrow. But you will hear about that after it happens. Nicholas says, got lots of brambles to cut back and all my veg beds, but I need weeding dreadfully overgrown due to not being here last year for Dad and being in Sussex quite a lot of that time. Not looking forward to it. Nicola, obviously, yes, we know you lost your dad last week. Very, very tragic. And of course, as I said at the time, the garden will still be there when you go back to it this year. You're probably still grieving. Forgive me if I'm wrong, and everybody else can tell me if they think I'm speaking out of order here. But I personally, if I were you, Nicola, I would bury myself into your garden project in order to help with the grieving process. I think it will help quite a bit. I hope I'm not overstepping the mark with that, like I said, but it's certainly what I would be doing, just throwing myself into that garden as much as possible. Turbo Stream says, I need to do the 15-minute thing in my home garden. The allotment has taken priority over the last couple of years. That is very, very common with anybody that has on an allotment. It does take priority over the garden. Even I find that myself. And that's why I've now started breaking my time and trying to spend just as much time on the allotment as I do at home. I probably spend more time at home in total, obviously, but actual work in the garden, I'm trying to spend the same amount of time at home as on the allotment. For some reason, the allotment does seem to take priority, and I think it's all due to the fact that allotments get inspected, so we feel we need to look after it better. Well, the garden gets inspected as well by my wife and the neighbours, etc., etc. So, got to get into that mentality. Digwell says, I'll be back on the plot soon. Not much to do until I build the new beds. When are you building those? Graham says, sorry to let you down. Sorry to let you guys down that I was sending seeds to the rats. Yeah, and rats got into his seeds. Not good at all. It happens, though, doesn't it? Digwell says, I have a few orders too. Just bought a load of Jiffy 7 pellets, pots, and punnets ready. I tried. This is funny enough. That no, I'll save that for next week. If you're going to be happy talking about this sort of compost question, but I tried those Jiffy 7 and I didn't get on with them. We'll talk about that next week. Stuart says, the only plants I have at the moment are flowers. My first proper sale will be in March, hopefully weather permitting. Yeah, I've got plenty of vegetables that are going to be sold this year as well. Especially things like asparagus and rhubarb from last year. Oh, we've got a problem. There we go. Oh, sorry, it went slow there. Nicola, Graham says to Nicola, 100% something to help you through grieving. Sorry for your loss, indeed. And Gary says, I think we all need different things with grief. Gardening helped me at times, other times not. Best wishes, Nicola. Yeah, you are right, actually. Yeah, but I think the key thing is keeping busy. Keeping busy. Turbo Stream says, I'm turning my home garden into a woodland garden to keep the work down. I have a million wild strawberry runners going completely mad. They are everywhere. Talking of strawberries, funnily enough, we had a question in the Facebook group this week talking about what do you do with your excess strawberry runners. I think there is a picture of this coming up, but it was Chili Kate was asking what to do with the excess strawberry runners. She's potted some up, planted some, but there are more than what she needs. She's tried giving some away. What do you do with the excess runners? Let us know in the comments what you would do. What happens? And Digwell says, if you want something to do, then have a go at the Seed Potato Challenge, SSPC 2024. Good fun. I'm definitely going to be doing it this year. When are you taking payment, etc.? Do keep reminding me about it as well. Nigel says, more jobs around the house for me this year. Just installed Cat 6 hardwired network. Next job is the bathroom refurb. I like the fact that you did your network first. Yeah, I totally with you. This is exactly what I've got in my house as well, with between the computers indoors. Hardwired network. It makes life so easy. Anyway, not talking about gardening now. Gary, should I thin the strawberry bed out? Depends how many you've got. Depends how many you've got and if they need enough space. Strawberry plants, depending on the variety, normally need about 30 centimetres of space around each plant. I plant mine in hanging baskets. And something I've started doing now, hanging baskets for a single strawberry plant. Starts off in the greenhouse, pots the runners out. I pot those runners out, and the runners will then go into another hanging basket and in the greenhouse, whereas the ones that were in the greenhouse last year now go outside. And then next year, the hanging baskets that have gone outside will go down to the allotment, and the hanging baskets that are in the greenhouse this year will go outside next year. That way I just keep a routine. After 3-4 years, strawberries don't produce as well, so I find it easy to throw out a hanging basket when they are past that time. Amanda says, I got my allotment a month before my mum passed away, and it was a place of real solace for me. I went there nearly every day in the 2 months I was off work, even if I didn't actually do anything whilst I was there. It helped massively. Sorry for your loss, Nicola. Yeah, indeed. The rules and invite video is on YouTube. Excellent. I haven't seen it yet, so apologies for that. Playmate Stream says, I have a few proper strawberry plants to move. We'll put them in pots this year or builder's buckets. Good idea. Good idea to builder's buckets, actually. I am in with the potato challenge. Yeah, me too. Gary, sounds like I do. Thanks. Another job. I'm talking about the strawberries. Yeah. Good to plant sweet peas. Yeah, another thing we can do in February is, of course, plant sweet peas. Can we do it in February? I always do mine in the autumn. I'm guessing February is good as well. Right, let's go to the sew along video. This was one that you chose again. I think it was Turbo Stream who wanted me to do this, and it is lettuce. Let's go see what we're doing there. Right, guys, this week you wanted me for the sew along to sow some lettuce, and that's what we are going to be sowing. So come on down here, I'll show you what I'm doing. So I'm sowing the lettuce into my rubber plug plant trainers just because it was available. Lettuce is usually quite a quick one to grow, so these would, or should in theory, germinate fairly quickly. Now there are a number of ways that we can sow lettuce. We could broadcast a seed where we just scatter the seed onto the surface and then prick them out at a later date. But I'm actually going to sow these as plug plants and then plant these out when they are ready. So these are the seeds. They are a variety called Apache, which is suitable for winter growing. Now, when it comes to sowing lettuce at this time of year, it is possible. You've just got to get the right variety and get it in the right conditions. So, like, I'm not going to sow these outside, but in the greenhouse, in the veggie pod, under a cloche, something like that, they shouldn't do too bad. Now, lettuce itself doesn't need to be buried too deep. I'm just making a little prick in each little plug plant, like so, and then we are going to take a single seed into each little one. Easier said than done sometimes. Many of these end up with more than one seed, but you get the idea. I'm just going to pop these. These are very small seed to try and do anything with, which is why sometimes with small seeds, broadcast sowing works out much better than just prick them out at a later date. Now, lettuce is probably one of the easiest salad crops to grow. They, as I said, you can pretty much sow certain varieties all year round, and you can end up with some pretty quick crops in next to no time. The type of crops that you have, or the type of lettuce that these produce, does vary. Apache itself is a loose-leafed variety. So we've filled all those up. We've got a few seeds left over that we'll save for another day. And I'm doing it over my seeds, just so any fall over can end up back in here, so they don't get wasted. I'm going to tap this down. Now, question I'm going to ask everybody is, what compost do you use for seed sowing? I've always used seed compost in the past, and probably always will. This particular seed compost is actually the type made from coir, which I'm becoming a bit of a fan of, certainly with seed sowing. But seed compost generally has very low nutrients, but is also quite loose and friable. So that's one of the reasons that I personally like to use seed compost. Loose, friable soil, easy to use, low in nutrients. At the seedling stage, or at the seed stage, sorry, plants generally don't need many nutrients. It's as they grow, that's when they need more and more nutrients. Now, what I will do with these, we're going to leave these in the greenhouse here until they germinate. We'll get them to grow until the point that all the roots are coming out the bottom, and then we will just pop them out of this plug plant and plant them in various locations. We'll probably put some in the greenhouse, some in the veggie pod, and some outside under cloches. But we could also do this on a windowsill or something like that just as well. Right, so get sharing your tips on seed sowing. One thing it is very important to remember with lettuce is that it is a cool, or germinates at cooler temperatures. So if it gets too hot, it may not germinate. Key point there. Again, it does vary from variety to variety, but too hot or too cold and the seed may not germinate. Right guys, back to the studio. Right, when I recorded that, I did mention about the seed compost, but I'm going to save that for next week. But it gets you thinking, doesn't it? But yeah, I've sown the lettuce, the Apache. I've just seen that. I'm sure it was Turbo Stream, because he had a lot of trouble with his lettuce. We'll have another go this week. Technique duly noted. There's lots of different ways of doing it. You could just broadcast sow them. I've done them like that into plug plants because it suits me, and I've done that in the past. But they are difficult because they are such a small seed to get one single seed in each little plug plant. Maybe 2 or 3, and then you just prick out the weaker plants. Something to think about anyway. Right, where were we with the comments? Right, there we go. Anna Jones says, I'm going to sow sweet peas soon as well. Gary says, we planted sweet peas today. And Digra says, just started my sweet pea experiment. So much conflicting info on how to sow them. There always is conflicting info on everything that we do. There's an old saying that if you ask 3 gardeners the same question, you will get 4 answers. And I think that is certainly true. I know sweet peas, some people say to chip each pea or soak the peas. I just bung them in, I'll be honest with you. I just bung them in and they always seem to come up. I actually sowed some sweet peas. I've got to get them into a pot soon, but I've sowed some sweet peas autumn. And they're doing fine, absolutely fine. Gary says, my Apache germinated very quickly in a propagator, but died out soon after. I tried again, this time in a greenhouse, so fingers crossed. They should be okay in a greenhouse. I think because they were in a heated propagator, Gary, they probably got a bit too hot, which is, as I said in the video, lettuce is a cool-loving plant. It likes it a bit cooler when it comes to germination, certainly. Stuart says, sweet peas can be sown from October to March. I sow some every month, but the earlier sown ones always be the stronger plants. But I don't put them outside until after the frost. Oh, mine have been outside all winter in root trainers, but I've got to get them into a bigger pot soon. We'll have another go, says TurboStream. Technique duly noted. It was TurboStream who was having a trouble in the past with the getting lettuce to germinate. I think, TurboStream, it's because I think you put them in your porch. It might be too hot in there. Digwell says, seed sowing compost, it all depends on the seed for me. Big seeds go in multi-purpose straight away, but that's it for this week. Yeah, save that for next week. Save that for next week. I think it's going to be a good topic for next week. Nigel says, I always soak my sweet pea seeds overnight before sowing. Others I've seen nick the hard outer shell with a penknife or sandpaper. Yeah, seems like a lot of work, doesn't it, nicking the hard outer shell with a penknife, but each their own. Brian says, I prefer to make my own seed compost. Short bought is too expensive. Brian, we're going to need your recipe for that next week then, please. That would be great. Digwell says, might as well give in now. Sorry, buddy. Might as well give in now. Sorry, buddy. Oh, yeah, talking about the lettuce. Brian says, I sowed my sweet pea in March, but lost to mice. Mice, always a problem, isn't it? A lot of people are having trouble with mice. TurboStream says, we'll try a tray in my kitchen, which is fairly cool. I think it'd be more successful, I'll be honest with you. And Rob's allotment gardener has joined again. He apologizes for being late, of course, but not a problem. What are your allotment tasks that you're going to be doing throughout January and February is the topic that we are discussing tonight. I think we've all shared our own, but if anybody else has anything to add, then please do. So next week we're going to be, I'll get this in here now. Next week, compost, seed compost, etc., different types of compost that we might use. Also need a mission and a seed to sow in the sow along. Or would it suit if I start choosing the seed to sow each week? Would that be better? And then you just go and sow it the week after. What would you prefer? I don't know. What have we got? Rob has been watching the football. Who's playing? What else have we got? Brian says, sweet peas sown in October, not March. Oh, sweet peas, right, yeah. I did think it. I thought you meant March last year. Digwell says, my trial, soak in water, soak on damp tissue, nick with a knife, rub on sandpaper and do nothing. It's recommended by a different reputable source. Yeah, I'll be interested, Digwell, actually what is the best for sweet peas, because there is so many different conflicting advice. Excuse me. Graham says football and Stella. Indeed. Oh, it was Man United and Spurs playing. It shows how much I know about football. Graham has joined. Sorry, all late this week. Were you watching the football as well? It seems like it. Anyway, choose the seed, mate. Choose a seed. Okay, I can choose a seed. And Digwell says, at the end of his results, I will name and shame. I think this is a good thing about everybody in the social media world. We can sort of experiment a bit more and see what works out best. As I said, as we were saying with the sweet peas, so many different ways of sowing them, and everybody has different answers. But there are a lot of different ways and things that we can do. And the good thing is with social media is we're not beholden to anyone. And I know there's a lot of debate on the gardening TV programs whether the advice is actually suitable for everybody. I think that's a key thing. Everybody's different. What have we got? Greg says, just tuned in, just getting down there would be a bonus. If I do, got the largest bed to weed and pot manure on. After that, the polytunnel to clear out, full of dead chili plants. Oh, you got your work cut out for you. Is that for January or February? Let us know in the comments. Graham says, can't beat a good ale. Money Boots says, I soaked all of my hard shell seeds. I have to admit, peas, I've soaked those in the past. Normal eating peas, this is. I've soaked those in the past and I've sown them straight in the ground. There's very little differences in that. But I do know what you mean, the soaking of them. And there are certain seeds, the nicking of the seeds, there are certain seeds that makes sense. It's called, is it stratifying or scarifying the seed? One is where you put it in a cold temperature to start the seed germination, which I think is stratifying, and scarifying is where you nick it. The scarifying imitates it passing through an animal's digesting system, and that encourages the seeds to sow. Doesn't apply to all seeds, of course, same as stratification, where you need that. Apple seeds are a good example of stratification, where they need a period below a certain temperature. Some people will put apple seeds in a fridge or freezer for a couple of weeks in order to get them to germinate. What I do, I sow mine in autumn, let them and they stay outside over the winter, and they generally germinate. Brian says, sweet peas take water through the hard extremity very easily. It shows very well if you soak overnight, just so direct into compost. Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. Digwell then goes on to say paraffin, of course, because that's what some people used to say, wasn't it? They would soak pea seeds and other seeds in paraffin. One, to stop the mice from eating at them, but also possibly to get them to germinate. Rob's actually just said his dad always soaked his peas in paraffin. I wouldn't dream of doing that this day in age. I wouldn't dream of doing that now. Sorry, my head. I get the headache is kicking in. I had a tattoo yesterday, so I think all the adrenaline has gone through my body, and that's why. Stratification. Yep, stratification. That's the word I was looking for. Turbo Stream says, my task for February is not to panic if I don't get all the jobs done. Most can be done in March too. I think that is good advice. I think for any month, don't panic if you don't get everything done, but concentrate on what is important. If you don't get everything done, there's still the next month, but you've got to focus on what is important. That's why I've always said about my to-do lists. Top of my to-do lists are always something that must be done. Stratification and vernalization. That's a word I've not heard before, but stratification and scarification is the two I've heard. But vernalization, I'm guessing, is possibly the same thing. Over the past few years, I've sown sweet peas many ways, says Stuart, but now I just pop them in the compost and hope for the best, as I didn't find any difference. I think this is where we're going to find out with Digwell's experiment what the difference is and whether it really works. Different methods of sowing sweet peas might be an idea we all try and copy it, mightn't it? Might be an idea we all try and do this as an experiment to see how we get on. What do you guys think of that? All try different ways of sowing sweet peas. Digwell says scarify is cutting the outer layer so the embryo has a way out. Scarification, that's it, and stratification is the cold one. Greg says Jan and Feb is estimate 2 to 3 hours work. That's what I tell the wife anyway, and I then return home 12 hours later. Don't we all do that? Don't we all do that? Just popping down to the allotment or popping out to the pub for a quick half. Won't be long. Many hours later, we come home. Brian, scarification is treatment for lawns, Richard, i.e. loosening the fat. It is also for the seed. Scarify, you would scarify the seed as well, but you are right. You scarify the lawn because it's the same process. You're scratching the lawn just like you're scratching the seed. You're scarifying both in that case. Yeah. Who scarifies their lawn here in the group? Anybody scarify their lawn? Graham says, I've never soaked any of my seeds. I'll give it a try this year. Yeah, I think it'd be a good experiment if we all try it. Graham says, let's see the tap, mate. Love a bit of ink. Not at the moment. One, it's not in somewhere I can... you're all asking to see it. I knew that was going to be... Bethan wants to see it. And was it a tattoo of Roxy? No, it wasn't a tattoo of Roxy. I've wanted a tattoo of Roxy, but we've got to find the right artist. It's under cling film at the moment. That's why whenever I hit my chest, do you want to see it? Do you want to see it? If you want to see it, let us know. Chillyfield was hope the guard was guard related. No, I do want a guard related tattoo at some point as well. This is my first tattoo, I should say. Vernalization, the cold period. I think Hargrave guess. I think vernalization is where you try and fake the seasons, sticking the seeds in the freezer. It's also I've also heard it as stratification. So there's obviously two different words for this. Probably a southern northern thing or something like that. I don't know. Nigel says, vote. Can we have a vote? Can we have a poll? Vote now if you want to see Richard's tattoo. Yeah. What have we got? Swallow the dictionary. Indeed. Yes, let's see the tat. Anna Jones says yes. No, it's not rude. It's not rude at all. Bring it on, Gary. Yeah, okay. A lot of you are saying let's see it. It's under cling film at the moment, so you may not get a brilliant look. Let's see if I can do it on. See if I can do it. Can you just about see it there? Can't you? I'll get the idea of it. Okay, I'm going to apologise to everybody for this. The only way you're going to see it is like that. So let me hide my nipple. Right, there you go. That is it. It is. If you can tell me the card that's on, you will get a congratulations. There you go. So, and I apologise if anybody's eating their dinner or anything after seeing that. It's not something I would want to see. I used to work for Park Det in the northeast many moons ago, but I've done my more share of scarification, thinning, and top dressing of cricket pitches. Rob says a cat. Nope. L-O-K-I or L-O-L. Graham says eagle. Close. And Nigel says, is it a bat? No, it's not a bat. Great job. I like. Gary says reported for nudity. Nice work, Richard. But Idaho. I think Idaho knows what that is. The way she's saying, it wouldn't surprise me if she does know what it is. If you do know what it is, it's not a bat. Graham says a sparrowhawk. No, it's not a sparrowhawk. I like your sort of thinking. It's probably, let me see if I can adjust it to try and get a better shot of it for you. Well, I could have zoomed in. Could have done that. That might have worked better. Obviously, it's tricky at the moment because... Oh, hang on. That camera's dropping a bit too much. It's tricky at the moment because it is under cling film for what have you, for protection. I'll try and get another shot for you. Digwell says a spacecraft. No. Nigel says training for Naked Garden Day. I would never do that. Nudity before the watershed, I say. Yeah, sorry. I do apologise for that. Hargrave Gas Corvette. No, not a Corvette, but you're not too far away with that. Ken the Kestrel, or even Kez. No. Post a photo in the group. I'll have to wait. Well, I'll take the cling film off. Let me see if I can get. You can get a better shot of it now. Yeah, that's a bit better, isn't it? You can see it underneath the cling film. Just go on. You must know. You must know what that is. Oh, hang on, that don't work because I didn't switch your camera. There you go. There you go. Get another shot of that. How's that? Is that a better shot? Right. Has anybody worked it out yet? Stuart Jackson says eagle. Not quite an eagle, but it is along those lines. Digwa says Skoda. No, definitely not a Skoda. No good at me guessing. I'm blind as a bat. One of Digwell's Star Wars toys. Chili Phil is close. Very well. It is a Phoenix, technically. Very, very close with a Phoenix. But we'll see what happens. Sponsorship tattoo for Amy. No, not at all. The cling film will make it sweat, mate. Moisturize and leave that off. Plus, it draws the ink out. They told me to keep the. I've got to take the cling film off a couple of times. I only had it done last night, but they've told me to moisturize and wash and what have you. That's what they told me to do. That's the artist. I've got to go back in a couple of weeks for the touch up. A dog, not a dog. Graham says a phoenix. Money says Angel of the North. Graham says a pair of melons. I can't make it out. Signal not great. Is it a duck? Lose the cling film after a few hours. Yeah. Scott has got there. Firebird. And Pontiac. Yeah. Pontiac Firebird is the car. Well, technically the Pontiac Trans Am, which is a version of the Firebird. If you've ever seen Smokey and the Bandit, the logo on the front of that car is what it is. No idea what the tattoo was, but there seemed to be two Maltesers on your chest. I did warn everybody. This is what I didn't really want to show that off at all. Probably a griffin, LOL. Yeah, close with a griffin. No, it is called. It's called the Screaming Chicken from the Firebird Trans Am thing. Smokey and the Bandit. Exactly right. You got it there, Idaho. I'm sure Idaho would have known what it was. But yeah, I will post a photo in the group when I am done, if that's what everybody wants to see, and I'll try and not get the nipples in sight. Right, how long have we got? Oh, we've got 10 minutes to go. So I think I saw somebody say, I can decide the seed. I think I'm going to do that for this next week. And I've had this for quite a while. I was thinking I could sew. Normally these sew-alongs are meant to be something that we can all sew together. But I was going to sew this chia garden, which I think might be what I sew for the sew-along next week. We can see how we get on with that. But you do need to set me a mission that I can do for this next week as well. A challenge. I want a challenge that you can set me to do. Oh, photos. Yes. Sorry, I did forget. I said there's quite a few photos to go through tonight as well. So let's have a look at the photos that are available or have been sent in this week. So first of all, Scott has got himself some potatoes. I said last week a bit of homework is to see what potatoes are available, and Scott has got himself this collection of potatoes. Next, Gary has also got himself some seed potatoes as well. They're all coming in quite a bit for all these seed potatoes are coming in quite often now. Andy has laid out a path on his allotment. He was the one that had loads and loads of carpet underneath his allotment, and he's cleared it out and he's making good progress on it, as you can see here. Steve Digwell has found his thief. This squirrel has been nicking some of his garlic and onions, I believe. Not nice, isn't it? If it's not mice, it's squirrels. Kate, Chili Kate, she's been clearing out all this bindweed. This area was a bit of a scrappy area. She covered it over. Today, she started clearing out all the bindweed. If you want to go and see what it looks like after, there's pictures in the group. Very, very busy, to say the least. Sarah has shared her first plot shot, first of a month, and this is her plot shot. Looks absolutely fantastic, I've got to say. Amanda's plot shot as well. I think this is Amanda who's in the group tonight. It's all full of so much potential, isn't it, at this time of year? Now, Ian shared this image. I found it quite interesting. A victory gun for a family of 5 on a plot 25 foot by 60 square foot. I don't necessarily like this, but I thought it was quite an interesting read at the same time. Kate, Chili Kate again, has a question about excess strawberry runners and what do you do with your excess strawberry runners? Bethan we spoke about celery last week, and Bethan has showed off this picture of her growing her celery through her plastic bottles to sort of act as like the blanch and stuff. Quite inventive, I've got to say. Go check it out if you want to see more. Viv is sharing about Seedy Sunday. As I said, I am on the panel in one of the discussions there. So please, if you are going to Seedy Sunday, go check it out. If you are also going to Seedy Sunday, give us a shout and we'll see about meeting up or something. I'm going to be there at some point. I may not be there all day this year, but it'd be good if anybody is going to meet up. Jenny has drawn up her allotment plans, as you can see in this plan. Something we've been discussing a bit tonight is making plans for our allotment, and Jenny has just taken on 2 allotments. Kate's investigating her potatoes as well at a seed swap that she's attending. Lots of potatoes there. And Arthur has shared this seed storage idea, which is quite inventive, actually, using postcard storage to store all the seeds. I've done something similar in the past, but I like the idea. I think I used photograph books as well in the past. Now, Beddoes had his hydropod, as I've called it, after 5 days. This seems to be quite a popular way of getting seeds started at the moment, using hydroponics growing systems to start off seeds. I like the idea, and I'm very intrigued to see how well they actually work. So please do keep sharing your photos. So you can post them in our Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@adventuregroundpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@adventuregroundpodcast.co.uk. I've just thought while doing that, not everybody, all you who want to see my tattoo, I will try and post a fit picture on YouTube and Instagram as well, if you're not in our Facebook group. I know not everybody is in there, but I will try and do that too. Right, where were we with the comments? Where were we? So Turbo Stream says next week's task could be plant a gooseberry. Yeah, you got me to dig one out. Now you want me to plant one. I know there was talk about the service for the gooseberry plant that we took out. How about, I'm going to throw a few ideas of a challenge. I want to challenge something you can really, I'm on call next weekend thinking about it, but something you can really set me to challenge myself. How about, what do I need to do? How about going to a garden centre and find and count how many different types of compost there is, or something like that, as we're going to be talking about compost next week. Let us know. Rob says he's 67 next Sunday. Remind us, and we will wish you a happy birthday. Gary says, what was the sow-along seed? Chia. Yes, chia. This chia pack I've had for quite a while, so I'm going to give that a try next week and see how we get on with it. Idaho says, I've ordered my potatoes. They will come in March. That's when I plant mine. Yeah, I plant mine in March as well. But we normally get them quite early here. Graham says, Andy, brilliant job. Absolutely. If you'd seen it at the beginning, or if you remember what it's like at the beginning, it's done amazing to get that far. I really, really dislike squirrels, says Idaho. I know how you feel. Graham says, only as old as the lady you feel. Rob says, I have not harvested last year's potatoes yet. Really? Wow, they are in the ground for... That's great, great. Idaho says, oh my gosh, Jenny is on fire. She's doing well, isn't she? Really getting the plans together. Hoping to hear more about it in the not too distant future. Kate says, amazing photos. Turbo Stream says, lovely pictures, everyone. Yeah. Oh, keep those photos coming. There's a really good lot of photos going on at the moment, especially in the group, and I really want to see more of them. Just want to add, if you are in the group, I know not everybody is, and I can only do this with Facebook. We do have a forum on the website, but it hardly ever gets used. But I do want to add, if you do see somebody new or whatever, we've got to try and welcome them in, especially when they make posts and things. I don't want it to be too clicky. So please do feel free to talk to anybody in the group as well. And post your own stuff too. Don't mind that. Digwell says, Cyril is my squirrel, at least 7 years old now. I recognise a white flash on his nose. Fantastic. Digwell says, oh, we could not talk to Richard. He will be the gooseberry. Yeah, trying to join in the conversation, aren't I? Yeah. Graham says, guys, hit the like button. Please help the channel. Yes, please do hit that like button. Please do give us a thumbs up. Please do follow and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notifications so that you know when we go live. Quick time check. Count the concessions at the garden centre. Concessions? What do you mean concessions? The ones that are being sold off cheap? Digger says, I'm selling my chia microgreen this year. I'm still... is it quite easy to grow? I've looked at it in the past. I've been meaning to grow it for years. Will it grow well? Nigel says, I have chia seed on my shreddies every morning. I eat chia from time to time. Anna says, yes, show us the composts available at your local garden centre. That sounds like a challenge there. What are chia, says Rob? So chia are, good question. Chia seeds are meant to be one of these new superfoods that a lot of people are eating, meant to be very, very healthy for you. And it's obviously possible to try and grow it. I guess it's quite healthy. I don't really know much about it, to be honest. Graham says, my spuds are still in the ground, to be honest, today. Tuesday will be the day. I assume you meant your breakfast, said Dig. Well, yes, 111. 111. Graham, I try to talk to everyone, just most people don't like me, mate. Cha cha cha. Excellent. Digger says Edinburgh Wall Shop is a concession, a shop within a shop. Oh, with you. I'm going to do both of those challenges. Cheerpet. And Rob says my superfood and drink is Stella. Yeah. I'm just making note of compost and concession. Okay, that is that decided. It is 7:30, guys. I think we have done another great live stream. Lots of conversation going on as always. So next week what we're going to be discussing is the different types of compost for sale and what you use them for. We're going to go to a garden centre and make a video as of the compost in there and the concessions. And the sew along is going to be chia seeds. Now, your homework is I want you to go to your garden centre or go in your garden actually and work out what different types of compost you use. Different types of compost that you use. So it could be cacti compost, it could be orchid compost, ericaceous compost, and so on. What different types of compost do you use? Let us know next week. So just finish off with the comments. Nigel says chia is very similar to poppy seed. Digwell says cider, Rob, one of your 5 a day. And Kate says chia is part of the salvia family. I love it. Make chia pudding for breakfast with coconut milk and fruit. Lovely. Fantastic. Chia is very filling, to be honest, as well. Bethan says, Nigel Hargraves says, thanks for another great chat. See you all next week. Taro Stream says, have a good one, everyone. See you all next week. And Graham says, cheers, oil. Digwell says, I will make a small video about peat. Please do. Please do. That would be good to see. Yeah, okay. Right. Thanks so much, guys, for joining me once again. I will post a picture as you have requested it in the group and somehow on YouTube or something. My guys, you take care. I'll see you all again next Sunday at 6, where we will have another get together. Take care, guys. Until then.